this one?
Hello, man.
Number 16, you're basically doing the same thing. So we're setting each of these equal to 0. And here you already have one of them. You're going to add 4 to both sides on this one, so you have x equals 4. You're going to add I radical 7 to both sides. You have x equals I radical 7. And then if you subtract, you're going to have x equals negative I radical 7. So what do you do with each of these answers? You're going to test each one of these and see if it equals 0. Let's do a difficult one like this one. I'm going to put into my function, every time I see x now, I'm going to put in negative I radical 7. And now I'm just going to go about simplifying this. Negative I to the 4th power, you're going to get essentially I to the 4th. And I to the 4th is I to the 2nd squared. And we learned earlier this year that I squared is equal to negative 1. So negative 1 squared is going to become what? 1. So that was a lot of work to just show you that negative I to the 4th power is just 1. Radical 7, you can think of this one as radical 7 squared squared. So if you think about this one, radical 7 times radical 7 is what? It's just 7. And then 7 squared gives you 49. I'll say, so we're just simplifying here. Radical 7 to the 4th power. Here it just means radical 7 times radical 7, which is just radical 49, which is 7, and 7 squared is 49. So essentially all of that just became 49. Here you have negative I to the 3rd power. Let's write that. Negative I to the 3rd power. Remember, negative I squared times negative I. So this will become I squared. And remember, I squared becomes negative 1. So essentially all that just becomes I. And then this one is going to be 7 radical 7. And over here I have, remember you can't multiply the 7, you're going to have to do this one first. So negative I squared, that just becomes I squared, and I squared equals negative 1. Radical 7 times radical 7, or radical 7 squared is 49. Radical 49, which becomes radical 7. So this one just becomes 7 and negative radical 7. And over here you can just do negative 28i. You can distribute that one. Alright, let's go ahead and simplify those. So this will be 49, this will be 4 times the 7, which becomes 28, and you still have the I there. This becomes negative 7 radical 7, and this one is negative 28i radical 7. And so if you simplify those, you recognize this is a positive and this one's a negative, so these will cancel. negative I squared is negative I times negative I is I squared, negative 1. Radical sometimes, this is just 7. So this becomes negative 7 and negative 49. And the reason why is if you cancel all those, and if it equals 0, that essentially means that this is a factor. And essentially we have to do that 3 more times. So let's go ahead and try that again. Alright, now let's go ahead and do that for this one over here. Again, same thing, you're basically just substituting I radical 7 into all of this. Let's see if I can squeeze it in. I radical 7 to the 4th power plus 4 times I radical 7 to the 3rd power plus 7 I radical 7 to the 2nd power plus 28 I radical 7. And let's just go ahead and go through and simplify these. And you can kind of cheat. I to the 4th power, you already have it there. And then that just becomes positive 1. And radical 7 to the 4th power, we did that here, we broke it down, right? And that means 7 squared is 49. So all that just becomes 49. Again, you can kind of cheat here. Not cheat, but I to the 3rd power is, let's do this one. So that becomes I to the 2nd times I to the 1st. This becomes 7 radical 7. And remember, you're not going to distribute the 2 there, so this is going to become the power of 2, so that'll be I squared times radical 7 squared. And then this one will just become 28I radical 7. And then we're just going to go through and simplify. So you have 49. Remember, this is all multiplication, so this is negative 1. Negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. I radical 7. This is a squared. So I squared equals negative 1, so negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. And that's square root of 49, which is 7. And that's just 28. I radical 7. And then this is a positive 49 and a negative 49. You have a negative 28I radical 7. Something happened here. And a positive I radical 27. Oh, yeah. And those just equals 0. So that tells us that since this is equal to 0, then x equals I radical 7. This is a factor. Let's try that now with 4. So f of 4 equals 4 to the 4th power plus 4 times 4 to the 3rd power plus 7 to the 4 squared plus 28 times 4. So I'm going to get 196 plus 4 times 16 times 4 is 64. Here I'm again using PEMDAS, so exponents first. 16 times 7. 112. Plus 112. So I get, no, that one's wrong. 4 to the 4th power, 256. So 256 plus 256 plus 112 plus 112. And if you add those together, you get 736. Okay, what does that mean? That means x equals 4 is not a factor. And then last one, if you put in 0 there, so you'll get 0 to the 4th power plus 4 times 0 to the 3rd power plus 7 times 0 squared plus 28 times 0. And that just becomes 0. 0 times 4 is just 0. 0 times 7 is 0. And 28 times 0. So you get 0. So that means that x equals 0 is a factor. Because your output, if you think about this, your output is a 0. So if you draw yourself a quick graph, you'll notice that it crosses the x-axis, and that's why it's a factor. This graph will cross there at a 0, but you'll notice that this one will be some huge number, 4 and 736, and then orange one, even though it's imaginary, will be here. So is it a factor? No, it's not, because the output here is not equal to 0 based on the factor theorem.